Welcome back, WrestleRanters, to WrestleRant edition number 71. I am, of course, your host, Bleacher, Future Columnist Level 2, Graham GSM Matthews, here today to review TNA No Surrender 2012 that went live last night on Sunday, September 9th. A great event continuing the recent string of awesome pay-per-view events that TNA has produced in recent months. Let's get right down to it. To kick off the show, Jeff Hardy defeating Samoa Joe in a Bound for Glory semifinals matchup. Great match. Probably not as good as their match from TNA Impact from a few days ago, but nonetheless a very good match to kick off the show. I was kind of surprised personally to see Jeff Hardy go over. I mean, I'll get to that in a little bit. I honestly thought that Samoa Joe would be going over here since how aggressively he's been pushed in this tournament. But nonetheless, it was good to see Jeff Hardy pick up victory here in just a great match overall. I was a bit surprised to see these two matches kick off the show because next up we had Bray versus Storm in another Bound for Glory semifinal matchup. I thought they would do what they did last year and separated out a little bit. Just put one earlier in the evening, then one later in the evening. I guess they weren't going to go that route. I guess they wanted to get it out early so they can build time for the Jeff Hardy injury angle. I'll get to that in a little bit as well. But yeah, I guess they wanted for that time to develop and stuff like that. So I guess that makes sense. But that was pretty cool how they designed it to go back to back. So yeah, as far as the Bully Ray versus James Storm matchup, wasn't as good as Jeff Hardy versus Samoa Joe, but it's still a good match. And nonetheless, my computer turned off at least three times during the course of this matchup, so I wasn't able to see all of it. But I was able to see the finish. I marked the fuck out for that. I think that was the most I marked out the entire pay-per-view. Robert Roode returning, attacking James Storm with a beer bottle, allowing Bully Ray to pick up the victory. Brilliant fucking booking. I could not stress that enough. I was marking the hell out as soon as I turned back on my computer for the third time. I guess my laptop was overheating, and the link that I was watching No Surrender on was complete shit. So once I switched links, I watched the end of the matchup. It was absolutely brilliant. I know you can call out like a Vince Russo rehiring here to bring back a shady finish for TNA. I personally don't really care. It got done when it needed to get done. Bully Ray winning clean here wouldn't have made that much sense if they want to protect James Storm as a top babyface on the roster. So Bobby Roode returning, costing him the matchup, makes perfect sense if they want that match to go down to Bound for Glory. I'm personally very, very happy that they're going to continue that feud from last year, Bobby Roode versus James Storm. It's a money feud. If it's not going to be able to TNA World Heavyweight Championship, might as well happen in a street fight environment come the biggest show of the year for TNA. So a great match and a great, great ending, and can't stress that enough. Knockout section, Miss Tessmacher successfully defending her Knockouts Championship against Tara, her teacher. Probably one of the better Knockouts matches that we've seen in recent months. These guys have a lot of good chemistry together. I'm really anxious to see where they go from the feud with here. Probably a Tara heel turn is in the works. So I would love to see this feud continue going to Bound for Glory. Miss Tessmacher could use a lot of credibility by defeating her former teacher, Tara, to retain the Knockouts Championship. So this is a very, very good match on the Knockouts. Hopefully they continue the momentum going forward in this hot feud between these two. The Apprentice and the Master. Going on in X Division Championship matchup, Zema Ion defeating Sanjay Dutt to retain the X Division Championship. Now, I will say this going into the event, much like many others, I did not care. I did not give two shits about this match, mostly because they haven't featured this feud at all on Impact. Like, not just one match, not two matches, not even a fucking backstage segment. They haven't had any hype for this match at all. It was extremely ridiculous. Then again, they didn't really hype any of the matches up until this past week on Impact. But nonetheless, this was a very, very good match. Down the stretch early on, you could hear a pin drop. It was that quiet because no one gave a shit about this match. But I will give them props. Zema Ion, Sanjay Dutt, a lot of good chemistry. We saw that back at, what is it called? Destination X back in July. So I was glad to see them put on a very entertaining matchup. Hopefully the feud continues and they eventually put the title belt on Sanjay Dutt at one point. I personally think that they're going to put the title back on Jesse Sorensen when he gets back. That might not be until January, but only time will tell. They just really need to start building X Division feuds on Impact in order for me to care. Nonetheless, really good match from these X Division stars. Up next, Rob Van Dam versus Magnus. RVD pulls out the victory here. All I have to say is why? Why would you make RVD go over for absolutely no reason? This guy does not need a victory. He does not need a push in 2012. I understand the fact that he got a TNA World Heavyweight title push earlier this year for like a month against Bobby Roode, but that was pretty much it, and that's all he needs. I mean, the match against Magnus was really good. I will give them that. Magnus is really improved in the ring since he debuted nearly 4 years ago, and I personally have had a lot of faith in Magnus becoming a top star in the company over the last year. I think he can make a brilliant single star, and I think he's going to a feud with Samoa Joe at the Grand Stage in the Mall for TNA, that is. So I think that could be a great feud if booked correctly. Battle of the former World Tag Team Champions. But as far as this matchup goes, really, really good match. Just a bad ending with RVD going over. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to be doing with RVD going to Bound for Glory, but only time will tell. Next up, the match of the night, World Tag Team Champions Christopher Daniels and Kazarian defeating the duo of Kurt Angle and AJ Styles to successfully retain their TNA World Tag Team Championships. As I just said, match of the night right here. Not as good as their Slammiversary match, but an extremely entertaining match, to say the least. Extremely entertaining throughout the entire match. Kaz, Daniels, Angle, and Styles all got their spots in. Angle, I have to commend him for this. As much as some people may disrespect him for some Twitter shit I guess he's pulled in recent years or whatever, as much as some people may not like to admit it, Kurt Angle is a damn good wrestler, one of the best in the world today, and he pulled through that hamstring injury and pulled on a damn good match with AJ Styles. Those guys make a very, very good team. I was glad to see them not win the titles here because I'd like to see it happen to Bound for Glory and make it mean a little more. Kaz and Daniels have been great World Tag Team Champions. Sure, they haven't had that many defenses since they won them back in June, but still, they have a lot of good chemistry. I think they're my favorite tag team, one of the best tag teams, if not the best tag team in pro wrestling today. A lot of good chemistry. Those guys are just hilarious, dude. Just from the humping from the second rope, just to all the action that they provided in this match, to the apple martini finish. That was brilliant. Glad to see this feud continue. Hopefully, we get a blow-off match at Bound for Glory, and AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels. The feud is finally done with for at least the next decade. So I forgot to mention this before, but Austin Aries challenged the leader. I say leader like this, quote-unquote, mostly because we're not exactly sure if it's leader at this point, but one of the head honchos of Aces and Eights, who presumably was Luke Gallows, as we saw in TNA Impact last week. Not much really to say about it. It was kind of a fun match. Austin Aries pulled out some heelish tactics, but who can really blame him because he kind of established that before the match during his promo, saying that he would go to any extent to beat the living shit out of the Aces and Eights members. So that made sense, but I mean, there were no pinfalls or anything. It was mostly just a street fight. A good time killer, I guess I would say, since they kind of need to fill time on this pay-per-view. They had a lot of extra time towards the end, so I was glad to see them do this. Austin Aries got the better of Aces and Eights here before the entire TNA roster came out, so at least he looks like a strong world champion. And Jeff Hardy, during the course of the brawl, was injured by one of the members of the Aces and Eights, which meant that he would be going into his match in the main event match against Bully Ray, injured with a shoulder injury. So I thought that was a good storytelling right there. And now going into the main event matchup, Jeff Hardy defeating Bully Ray to win the Bound for Glory series for 2012 and going to Bound for Glory 6, 7, I think it's 7. I'm not exactly sure. I think it might even be 8. But nonetheless, Jeff Hardy, Bully Ray, great matchup. But Jeff Hardy with this victory going to Bound for Glory next month to headline the pay-per-view with TNA World Heavyweight Champion Austin Aries over the title. This right here was a good match. Kind of boring in my opinion. The crowd wasn't really all that responsive. Can't really blame them. I can't blame them to an extent. It's the Impact Zone. They've just been really watered down in recent years. They kind of need to move to new environments when they go to pay-per-views like this, a really good pay-per-view. So, but other than that, I thought this is a really, really good match. Some really, really good storytelling right here. They did something similar to this with Bully Ray and Bobby Roode last year during the course of their matchup, and the finish started to come out of nowhere when Bobby Roode won the match. That's kind of what I felt here with Jeff Hardy going over. I kind of had a bad feeling during the course of the match. I will justify bad feeling because it's not all that bad. It could be worse, but I'll get to that in a second. But I did have a feeling throughout the course of the matchup that Jeff Hardy would battle back from the injury and pull out the victory. And of course, that's indeed what he did, and is now going to Bound for Glory to headline the event against TNA World Heavyweight Champion Austin Aries. Now, obviously, as everyone was speculating, I said this a few weeks ago at the very least, Bully Ray was my odds-on favorite to win this series, mostly because I presumed that he would be, as many others have predicted as well, he would be the eventual leader of Aces and Eights, and that makes 10 times more sense than what they did here. Bully Ray would have gone over here, gone on the Bound for Glory to defeat Austin Aries in a sacrifice rematch to win his first TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Someone said to me last night, maybe Bully Ray didn't win because his contract was coming up. No, I'm going to throw that theory out the window. From what I read, which I think is a legitimate source, Bully Ray has signed a 2-year deal with TNA, an extension. So it's pretty unlikely that they wouldn't push him for those reasons, that he wouldn't be resigning, because he did resign. So I'm not exactly sure. But Then again, even when this whole tournament started, we all predicted that James Storm would go on to win the series and face Bobby Roode in the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. That never ended up happening. We're still getting that match that's not over the title. So now I'm starting to think that maybe Austin Aries winning the World Heavyweight Championship was a mistake, because Jeff Hardy versus Austin Aries, as good of a match as that will be, I don't think that has as much money as Storm versus Roode over the title or Bully Ray versus Austin Aries. Hopefully they have, if Bully Ray is indeed the leader behind Aces and Eights, he'll have the members attack Hardy in an upcoming edition of Impact. Maybe they'll make it a triple threat like they did with Bound for Glory 2010 over the title. I would love to see that. Anything to get Bully Ray in the main event, because he sure as hell deserves it. Just the only problem here, if they are just hell-bent on doing Jeff Hardy versus Austin Aries, I believe for the first time ever, just please, TNA, I am begging you, if you fucking make Jeff Hardy the leader of Aces and Eights, as you did with Immortal, I'm going to fucking flip and just stop watching TNA for quite a while, because I cannot handle that bullshit. That's what they did with Immortal 2 years ago, and I will admit, I marked the fuck out when Jeff Hardy turned heel. However, they completely botched this storyline a few months into it, some would say even a few weeks into it, when they just completely screwed over Jeff Hardy. He screwed over himself with the drug shit, and then he was eventually suspended for nearly 6 months. Now, I do find it funny that he came back on September 8th, 2011, and he won the BFG Series this year on September 9th, 2012. So I thought that was really cool, but I think I wouldn't have as big of a problem with Jeff Hardy winning if they kind of built around the Jeff Hardy redemption storyline, which they've been really hitting home over the last few months, especially when he first came back in the latter half of 2011, especially when he was contending for the title against Bobby Roode. That would have made more sense, but they didn't really make this feel special at all. It kind of felt random, kind of just for the sake of swerving us, which is something that I'm kind of disappointed in. But then again, I won't lose all hope. I won't bash this decision. There could be far worse things that they could have done. They could have had RVD win it. I would have fucking flipped if that happened. But, still, I think Jeff Hardy isn't a bad choice. They just need to build it up well and hopefully get Bully Ray in the mix as well. So overall, I thought this was a really good TNA pay-per-view. Maybe not as good as Slammiversary, or maybe not as good as Destination X, but still a great TNA pay-per-view. Needless to say, a lot of awesome action throughout the night. No title changes, didn't need to be. A lot of good shockers as well, with Jeff Hardy winning. Not necessarily a good shocker, kind of a moderate shocker, but Bobby Roode returning was also a nice touch. So I'm really looking forward to Bound for Glory for the first time in years, probably the first time ever. And they really have a decent card, and it could really be an awesome show if built correctly. For those wondering, with Raw tonight, if I do post this before Raw tonight, I will be doing a Raw review hopefully later in the week, as well as my Night of Champions picks. Make sure to check that out later in the week. Make sure to subscribe to my videos. And enjoy your week, guys. And this is GSM signing out. Till next time, guys.